Guys, so today we're going to review reading. These are stories that are really simple to understand and that we already discussed in class. We're going to review some vocabulary words that we see along those stories. Okay? The first one is artificial. It's something that you cannot find in nature, something made by humans. Raise is to grow. On a farm, for example, raisins are grown on the farm, same as some vegetables and fruits. Number 3, raisin is a dried grape. Number 4, narrator is someone who tells a story. For example, do you remember on the story Pushing Up the Sky? There was a narrator. That is the person that was telling us what was happening. Language is the grammar used to communicate. You know two languages. For example, you know how to talk in Spanish and how to talk in English. So that is the way you can communicate with someone else. A melody is a sweet sound. For example, a voice has a good melody. Now, a symphony is a consonance of sounds, or many sounds that together they sound really good, and that is a symphony. A bay is something reddish brown. Okay, now that we understand the vocabulary, that we remember some of them, we're going to read again the stories. So go grab your big books. The first story that we're going to read again is How Do You Raise a Raisin? Remember what it was about? That's right, it was about raisins and how they grow on the farms until they get to your house. So let's read again the story.
How Do You Raise a Raisin? By Pam Munoz Ryan. Illustrated by Craig Brown. Genre. This expository text asks questions using rhythm and rhyme. The answers tell all about raisins. What do you want to learn about raisins as you read? Question of the week. How do people and nature interact? Let's think about reading. How do you raise a raisin? Tell me so I'll know. They're such peculiar little things. How do they sprout and grow? Do raisins grow on Earth or other planets far away? Do aliens collect them and space shuttle them our way? Raisins are dried grapes. So far, there is no proof that raisins grow on other planets. Raisins are grown on Earth, in countries like Turkey, Iran, Greece, Australia, and the United States. So who discovered raisins? Were they here when Earth began? Who was the first to nibble them? Dinosaur or man? Raisins were probably discovered when someone or something tasted grapes that had dried on the vine. Over the years, people and animals figured out which grapes produced the sweetest, yummiest raisins. Do raisins grow in one place, like Raisin Creek or Raisin Hill? Is there a special town called Raisinfield or Raisinville? Raisins grow best in areas with nice dirt, many days of hot weather, a dry climate, and plenty of water. Almost all of the raisins in the United States are grown in the San Joaquin Valley of California, near towns like Chowchilla, Dinuba, Kingsburg, Selma, Weed Patch, and even Raisin City. About 90% of the raisins sold in the United States come from the area around Fresno, California. Do farmers plant some seeds from the local garden shop and wait for raisin bushes to produce a raisin crop? Farmers start a new crop of raisins by taking cuttings from an older grapevine. These pieces of stem are planted in sand until they sprout. Then they are planted in the fields next to a wooden stake. Notice how the grapevines and the sprawling branches grow. Does a grapevine tamer train them into picture-perfect rows? Grapevines are grown about 8 feet apart. Field workers hand-tie the sturdy branches, or canes, to rows of wire. There are usually 2 sets of wire, a top set that is about 6 feet high, and a second wire that is 3 or 4 feet high. How long do raisins take to grow? A week, a month, or a year? How many hours must you wait for a raisin to appear? It takes at least 3 years until the vines are old enough for the first crop of raisins. That's 26,280 hours. When grapes are ripe and ready, how do farmers get them down? Do they rent a burly giant to shake them to the ground? When grapes are ready, skilled grape pickers snag the grape clusters from the vines using a sharp vine cutter. Most grapes are turned into raisins the same way they've been for thousands of years. They are left to dry naturally in the sun. What do raisins lie on while they're basking in the sun? Do they rest on little beach towels until they're dried and done? The grape clusters are laid on brown paper trays on the ground between the grapevine rows. This is called laying the grapes down. The sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Most raisin growers plant their vineyards in east to west rows. This way, grapes drying between the rows receive the most sun. If they were drying in north to south rows, the grapes would be in the shade part of the day, and when it comes to raising raisins, the more sun the better. How long do clusters lie around to sweeten, dry, and bake? How many weeks in the valley heat does raisin making take? Raisins bake in the sun for about 2 to 3 weeks. Then, the paper trays are rolled into bundles that look like burritos and are left in the field for a few more days to make sure that all the raisins are as dry. Raisins do not look like grapes. They're withered up and wrinkled. Are they soaked inside a bathtub until their skin is crinkled? As grapes bake in the hot sun, their water evaporates. The more water they lose, the more the grapes shrivel, causing wrinkles. How many grapes must a farmer dry upon the valley ground to make a box of raisins that weighs about 1 pound? It takes about 4 1/2 pounds of fresh grapes to make 1 pound of raisins. How do the raisins get from fields to the raisin factory door? Does a vacuum cleaner suck them up from the dusty valley floor? Farm workers toss the raisin bundles into a wooden trailer. The raisins are sent across a shaker that gets rid of the dirt and rocks. Then, raisins are taken to the factory and stored in big boxes called bins until they are ready to be packaged. Who puts raisins in the boxes that keep them sweet and dried? Do tiny fairy princesses stuff each one inside? When they're needed, raisin bins are brought into the factory for packaging. It takes only 10 minutes from bin to package. Workers and machines take off the stems and capstems, sort, and wash the raisins. Then the raisins are packaged in a variety of boxes and bags. Over the years, raising raisins flourished, but raisin seeds were a problem. When seeds were removed, the raisins became a sticky, clumpy mess. Bakers and people who liked to eat raisins found this troublesome. They hoped for a seedless grape that would produce a yummy raisin. In 1876, William Thompson introduced the Lady de Coverley grape to California. The green grapes were seedless, with thin skins, and produced a sweet and flavorful raisin. These grapes changed the raisin-producing industry forever and are still known today as Thompson seedless grapes. Today, 95% of the California raisin crop is Thompson seedless grapes. What's so great about raisins anyway? They're nutritious. Raisins are rich in iron, calcium, potassium, and B vitamins and provide a good source of fiber. They make other foods taste better. Raisins have tartaric acid, a flavor enhancer. Raisin juice and raisin paste are used in a variety of sauces such as pasta, barbecue, and steak sauces to boost their flavor. Raisin paste is sometimes used as filler in meatballs and meat pies to provide more servings. Raisins have a rich, natural color. Raisin juice is often added to frozen dairy desserts and baked goods as a color enhancer or food coloring. Ground raisins can be used instead of fat in fat-free baked goods like fat-free muffins, cookies, and brownies. Raisin paste and raisin juice concentrate are mold inhibitors that prevent food from spoiling as easily. Bakers often use raisin products instead of artificial preservatives. Raisins extend the shelf life of bakery goods by several days over products without raisin products. Follow these steps. Ants on a log. Spread celery pieces with peanut butter, cream cheese, or cheese spread. Top with raisins. Rats on a raft. Spread cream cheese on graham crackers. Dot raisins on top. Super balls. 1 cup honey. 1½ cups powdered milk. 1 cup peanut butter. 1½ cups graham cracker crumbs. 1 cup raisins. 3/4 of a cup crushed cornflakes or dried coconut. Put crushed cornflakes or coconut in a dish. In a mixing bowl, mix all other ingredients. Shape into balls. Roll balls in crushed cornflakes or coconut.
That was a great story, right, guys? So now we're going to read Pushing Up the Sky. I know this is your favorite story. We even have some dramatizations on that class. So let's read it again. Get ready on your big books. You can pause the video if you need to.
Pushing Up the Sky by Joseph Bruchac. Illustrated by Teresa Flavin. What would happen if you could touch the sky? Genre. A play uses a cast of characters. Look at the characters in Pushing Up the Sky and think about which role you would like to play. Snohomish. The Snohomish people live in the area of the Northwest that is now known as the state of Washington. not far from Puget Sound. They fished in the ocean and gathered food from the shore. Their homes and many of the things they used every day, such as bowls and canoe paddles, were carved from the trees. Like many of the other peoples of the area, they also carved totem poles, which recorded the history and stories of their nation. This story is one that was carved into a totem pole made for the city of Everett, Washington by Chief William Shelton. Characters. Speaking roles. Narrator. Tall man. Girl. Mother. Boy. First chief. Second chief. Third chief. Fourth chief. Fifth chief. Sixth chief. Seventh chief. Non-speaking roles. Animals and birds, as many as group size will accommodate. Animals familiar to the Snohomish would include dog, deer, elk, mountain goat, bear, mountain lion, rabbit, weasel, wolf, and fox. Birds would include hawk, bald eagle, golden eagle, jay, seagull, raven, heron, and kingfisher. Props, scenery. The village can be suggested with a painted backdrop showing houses made of cedar planks among tall fir trees and redwoods, with the ocean visible in the background. Potted plants can be added around the stage to suggest trees if desired. Bows and arrows held by boy in Scene 1 can be from a toy set or made from cardboard. The poles held by people and animals in Scene 3 can be rulers or long tubes of cardboard. Costumes. People, including the narrator, can wear blankets or towels. Chiefs wear them around their shoulders, and other humans wear them wrapped around their waists to suggest the robes often worn by people of the Northwest. Cone-shaped hats worn by Snohomish women may be worn by girls playing human characters. Depending on their number and type, the animals can be suggested by face paint or with decorated masks made from paper plates. Scene 1. A village among many tall trees. Tall man, girl, mother, and boy stand on stage. Narrator. Long ago, the sky was very close to the earth. The sky was so close that some people could jump right into it. Those people who were not good jumpers could climb up the tall fir trees and step into the sky. But people were not happy that the sky was so close to the earth. Tall people kept bumping their heads on the sky. And there were other problems. Tall man.
Oh, that hurt. I just hit my head on the sky again.
Girl.
I just threw my ball, and it landed in the sky, and I can't get it back.
Mother.
Where is my son? Has he climbed a tree and gone up into the sky again?
Boy.
Every time I shoot my bow, my arrows get stuck in the sky.
All.
The sky is too close.
Scene 2. The same village. The 7 chiefs stand together on stage. Narrator. So people decided something had to be done. A great meeting was held for all the different tribes. The 7 wisest chiefs got together to talk about the problem. First chief.
My people all think the sky is too close.
Second chief.
The Creator did a very good job of making the world.
Third chief.
That is true. But the Creator should have put the sky up higher. My tall son keeps hitting his head on the sky.
Fourth chief.
My daughter keeps losing her ball in the sky.
Fifth chief.
People keep going up into the sky when they should be staying on the earth to help each other.
Sixth chief.
When mothers look for their children, they cannot find them because they are up playing in the sky.
Seventh chief.
We are agreed then. The sky is too close.
All.
We are agreed.
Second chief.
What can we do?
Seventh chief.
I have an idea. Let's push up the sky.
Third chief.
The sky is heavy.
Seventh chief.
If we all push together, we can do it.
Sixth chief.
We will ask the birds and animals to help. They also do not like it that the sky is so close.
Second chief.
The elk are always getting their antlers caught in the sky.
Fourth chief.
The birds are always hitting their wings on it.
First chief.
We will cut tall trees to make poles. We can use those poles to push up the sky.
Fifth chief.
That is a good idea. Are we all agreed?
All.
We are all agreed.
Scene 3. The same village. All the people, except seventh chief, are gathered together. They hold long poles. The birds and animals are with them. They all begin pushing randomly, jabbing their poles into the air. The sky can be imagined as just above them. Girl.
It isn't working.
Boy.
The sky is still too close.
Fifth chief.
Where is seventh chief? This was his idea.
Seventh chief. Entering.
Here I am. I had to find this long pole.
First chief.
Your plan is not good. See, we are pushing and the sky is not moving.
Seventh chief.
Ah, but I said we must push together.
Fifth chief.
We need a signal so that all can push together. Our people speak different languages.
Seventh chief.
Let us use Yahoo as the signal. Ready?
All.
Yes.
Seventh chief.
Yahoo!
At the signal, everyone pushes together. All.
Yahoo!
Seventh chief.
Yahoo!
Again, everyone pushes together. All.
Yahoo!
Tall man.
We are doing it.
Mother.
Now my son won't be able to hide in the sky.
Seventh chief.
Yahoo!
Again, everyone pushes together. All.
Yahoo!
Boy.
It will be too high for my arrows to stick into it.
Seventh chief.
Yahoo!
Again, everyone pushes together. All.
Yahoo!
First chief.
We have done it.
Narrator. So the sky was pushed up. It was done by everyone working together. That night, though, When everyone looked overhead, they saw many stars in the sky. The stars were shining through the holes poked into the sky by the poles of everyone who pushed it up higher. No one ever bumped his head on the sky again, and those stars are there to this day.
Wow, two great stories we have read. Now let's read number 3, A Symphony of Whale. This is a really cute and amazing story about whales and a girl. Do you remember the name of the girl? That's right, Glansha was the name of the girl. So let's read the story.
A Symphony of Whales by Steve Skutch. Illustrated by Wendell Miner. Genre: fiction sometimes tells a story based on events that really did happen. Look for parts you think are true. Question of the week: how can people help animals in danger?
From the earliest time she could remember, Glashka had heard music inside her head. During the long, dark winters, blizzards sometimes lasted for days. Then her family stayed indoors, close to the small fire. Glashka heard the songs calling to her out of the darkness, beyond even the voice of the wind. The old ones of her village said, "That is the voice of Narna, the whale. Long has she been a friend to our people. She was a friend of our grandparents' grandparents. She was a friend before we saw the boats of strange men from other lands. But it is long now since one of us has heard her." "It is a great gift you have." And Glashka would fall asleep, wrapped in her sealskin blanket, remembering their words. The sea gave life to Glashka's village. The seals gave meat and warm furs to protect against the winter cold. In summer, the people caught salmon and other fish, then salted them to keep for the hard times to come. And from Narna, the whale, the people received food for themselves and their sled dogs, waterproof skins for their parkas and boots, and oil for their lamps in the long winter darkness. One year the snows came early. For 3 days a blizzard bore down on the village. When it finally stopped, Glashka's family needed supplies from the next village. Glashka asked if she might help drive the sled dogs. "It is not so easy to drive the sled," her parents said. "The dogs will know if you are uncertain of the way, but you will know the way home. Perhaps on the way back you may try. Now, go to sleep." That night in her dreams, Glashka drove the dog sled. But the dogs did not follow her commands. Instead, they led her to open water surrounded by ice. Glashka heard the singing of Narna louder than she'd ever heard it before. She awoke in the darkness of her sealskins, wondering what the dream had meant. The morning was clear and cold as the family set out. The dogs made good time to the neighboring village. Before starting back, Glashka's parents packed the supplies into the sled. Glashka checked the dogs' feet for cuts. She rubbed their ears and necks. Glashka's parents gave her the reins. "We'll follow behind you. If your heart and words are clear, the dogs will listen and take you where you wish to go." They set off. Across the ice, snow swirled as the wind began to pick up. Suddenly the sled dogs broke from the trail, yelping and twitching their ears. "What is it?" Glashka's parents shouted. "I think they hear something," Glashka called back. The sled dogs pulled harder. Their keen ears could pick up high-pitched notes that most humans couldn't hear. But Glashka, if she turned just right, could make out the eerie moans and whistles that grew louder until even her parents could hear them. The dogs stopped short. They were right at the edge of a great bay of open water, surrounded on all sides by ice and snow. Everywhere Glashka looked, the water seemed to be heaving and boiling, choked with white whales. Her father came up beside her. "Beluga whales," he said softly. Glashka stared. "There must be more than 1,000 of them." The cries of the whales rose and fell on the wind as they swam slowly about. The dogs whined and pawed anxiously at the ice. "Let's hurry to the village," cried Glashka. "We'll get help." Glashka's father, though, knew there was no help. "They must have been trapped when they came here last fall, looking for food," he said quietly. "There's nothing we can do to free them. When the last of the water freezes over, the whales will die." But Glashka's mother remembered that an icebreaker several winters ago had rescued a Russian freighter trapped in the sea ice. "Could we call on the emergency radio? Maybe an icebreaker can clear a channel for the whales," she said. Glashka and her parents raced back to their village. They gathered everyone together and told them what had happened. Glashka's father got on the emergency radio and put out a distress call. "Beluga whales, maybe thousands of them, trapped. We need an icebreaker. Can anyone hear me?" Far out at sea, a great Russian icebreaker named the Moskva picked up the faint signal. "We read you," the captain radioed back. "We're on our way, but it may take us several weeks to reach you. Can you keep the whales alive until then?" Some of the people from Glashka's village started setting up a base camp near the whales. Others set out by dog sled to alert the surrounding settlements. Everyone came, young and old, parents, grandparents, and children. Day after day, they chipped back the edges of the ice, trying to make more room for the whales to come up to breathe. "Look," said Glashka's grandmother. "See how the whales are taking turns, how they give the younger ones extra time for air." As Glashka took her turn chipping back the ice, the song of Narna filled her ears again. She sang to the whales while she worked, trying to let them know help was on the way. Each day, Glashka looked anxiously for a ship. But each day, a little more water turned to ice. Each day, the whales got weaker from hunger. Glashka knew how it felt to be hungry. The year before, her village had caught barely enough fish to make it through to spring. Sometimes the memory still gnawed at her. Even so, she gave the whales part of the fish from her lunch. The other villagers noticed and began to feed some of their own winter fish to the whales, too. One morning, Glashka awoke to the sounds of excited voices and barking dogs. The icebreaker had broken through the main channel during the night. "Hurry, Glashka!" her parents called. Then the songs of the whales echoed over the water. Deep moans and high, whistling calls, ancient sounds from another world. But the whales would not go near the ship. Again and again, the captain inched the giant icebreaker closer to the whales, then back toward the sea. But the whales stayed as far away as they could. "It's no use," the captain radioed in despair. "And we can't stay beyond tomorrow. Already the channel is starting to refreeze." Glashka was near tears as she asked the Old Ones what could be done now. "Wait," they said. "Let us see what tomorrow brings." That night, the song of Narna came to Glashka again. Only this time, it was different. She heard the music and voices of whales, but she heard other music too. Melodies she'd never heard before. While it was still dark, Glashka woke her parents. "I've heard Narna again," she said, "and I've heard other music too." "You have to tell the Old Ones," Glashka's parents said. The Old Ones of the village listened carefully as Glashka told them what she had heard. "So, it is other music Narna is asking for," they said thoughtfully. "Long is the time, but once, it is said, humans and whales made music together. Perhaps the time has come again. Let us speak with the captain." Quickly, Glashka and the Old Ones radioed the ship. "Have you any other music? People music to play for the whales?" they asked. The captain said he would see what his crew could find. First, they tried playing rock and roll. The electric guitars and drums boomed, but the whales would not follow the ship. Next, the crew tried Russian folk music. It was softer, with many voices singing together. The whales swam a little closer, but still they would not follow the ship. On shore, Glashka ran back to the radio transmitter. She had to talk with the captain. "I know there's other music that will work. Please, keep trying," she told him. The crew found some classical music. First, the sweet sounds of violins and violas. Next, the deeper notes of the cellos. And, deepest of all, the string basses. And way up high, a solo violin. Everyone fell silent as the melody carried over the water. The whales grew quiet too, listening. A few whales started to sing back to the ship and to each other. Gradually, more whales joined in. Then, they began to swim toward the ship. Cautiously, the captain started the huge engines and headed slowly out to sea. One whale followed, then another, then a few more. Soon all the whales were following the ship through the narrow channel, past the broken chunks of ice, back to the safety of the open ocean. On shore, people laughed and cried and hugged each other. The sled dogs jumped up and barked, trying to lick the noses and faces of anyone they could reach. Glashka buried her wet face in the fur of the dogs' necks. "Such good, good dogs," she told them over and over. "Such good dogs. Now the whales are going home." On board the ship, the captain and his crew raised every flag. The music played as the captain radioed to say the whales were safe. He and his crew were finally going home, too. Glashka and her family looked out to sea. They waved to the icebreaker and the disappearing whales. "And do you hear Narna singing now?" her grandmother asked. "Yes," Glashka said, "but it isn't just Narna I hear now. It's something bigger than that. Something like a whole symphony of whales.
Great story was the three of them, right? I know those are the ones that you really like. So now let's answer some questions. So what are raisins? That's right. They are dried grapes. They grow on farms. What can you tell me about raisins? Great. Now let's answer number 2. Who had the idea of pushing up the sky? Remember who was the one that said about pushing up the sky? That's right, that was the seventh chief. He was the one that had the idea of pushing up the sky with those poles. Number 3. What was the phrase they used in pushing up the sky to communicate between them? Remember that there were a lot of people that they speak different languages. So they use a phrase to understand everybody. When was the time to push up the sky? What was that phrase? That's right. Yahoo was the phrase they use. Now number 4. Glashka and her village worked together to what? What they wanted to do. They wanted to save the whales. They want them to show them the way so they can return to the ocean, right? And the last one. The whales move until when? What made the whales go back to the ocean? That's right. Glashka put classical music to them and they follow the music until they got into the ocean, into a safe place for them. Now that's it for the review of reading. Now you're ready to get to the evaluation. So good luck, mi amores. I love you a lot.